Hey everybody, I'm obviously not out at the golf course today, but today for your video, your golf video, I wanted to give something that most golfers have a problem with, and that is their back. And today I'm going to give you 4 things that I've either used or work with some of the professionals who we're going to go over these things today to help make sure that your back is strong, flexible, and where you need it to be to play pain-free and have a hell of a lot of fun in the process. All right, so come on into my gym. So as I said in the intro, today what I want to do is go over a number of different ways that you can help protect your back or maybe get it out of some discomfort or pain. I'm not a physician. I don't even play one on the internet. I'm not even a physical therapist. But what I have had is 30 years of in and out of professional golf. I've worked with a lot of different trainers, therapists, different modalities, and had all 4 of the modalities and disciplines I'm going to talk about today. All 4 of them have been on the podcast, so I will put all of their episodes down in the summary below so you can check them out. So what I'm going to go over today, in no particular order, I'm going to go over foundation training, which was developed by Dr. Eric Goodman and his very, very dear friend, Jesse Solis. Again, they were on the podcast. That's one that I do for my warm-up. Then I go into the McGill Big 3, and I got that from Brian Carroll, who is a McGill practitioner of Dr. Stuart McGill from fame, the famous back engineer. Then we'll get into some things that I've done with Dan Hellman, and I've taken a number of classes at Dr. Guy Voyer, the ELDOA system, and then last but not least, the GoTo system with Ricky Stanzi that really deals with how you move energy flows and things like that. So in no particular order, let's get started. So as I mentioned, there's 4 disciplines or modalities that I'm going to go over today that have really helped me get myself out of any back discomfort or pain, allowed me to get back to playing and play longer without having any setbacks. Now, there's no particular order and significance of these, but what I will do is put them in order that I found to be very useful as far as when I go to the gym. I use one as my workout, one as my pre-workout, and then I get into my workout, and then one I do at the end, and then another that we'll get into I do on a regular and daily basis. And the first one that I'm going to talk about is the original founder video, Foundation Training, and Dr. Eric Goodman and Jesse Solis. I will put a link down to that video below. It has over 10 million views so far on YouTube. It's absolutely fantastic. Anyone that I've given this to has called me back raving about it. It might be very difficult to get through. It's about a 12-minute movement, somewhat of a stretching decompression video, but it's continual movement and holding positions. But it works phenomenal for getting your back out of discomfort and strengthening it at the same time. One of the key components of the foundation training, as well as all the disciplines I'm going to talk about today, is the outsides of the feet are very, very often parallel to one another. So foundation training, you'll see in the video, feet are a little wider than shoulder width apart. You're going to let your rear end move backwards as your head comes forward. And then there's a series of movements where you're stretching your hamstrings while you're keeping a neutral spine. You're going to decompress by lifting your arms and extending, reaching the crown of the head up. But again, the outsides of the feet parallel are very important because if the feet are pointed outwards, the pelvis has a tendency to tuck under you, and you get the old man walk where the belly leads your walk or your stance, and your head and your shoulders are back, and that puts a lot of undue stress on your back. When your feet are inverted or pointed a little bit in with outsides of the parallel, it allows the femurs to internally rotate and allows the pelvis to settle down a little bit. So that's the very first one. If there's an added bonus, I would also check out Dr. Eric Goodman, his 8-point plank. That's phenomenal for your core strength, the TVA, all the abdominals. That'll help you in great posture as well. Okay, so the second part of this, as I mentioned, foundation training, the 12-minute stretching workout routine was the first thing that I do in the gym when I go to get warmed up. The second thing I do to tune up my core and get it prepped for the work that I'm going to do, whatever it is for the day, is the McGill Big 3. Now, this is no secret. It comes from Dr. Stu McGill, who's up at the University of Waterloo. He's a world-renowned engineer and has done a spine expert who has done a tremendous amount of research and work with spines and the back in general. And I was very fortunate enough to have one of his practitioners, Brian Carroll, who wrote The Gift of Injury with Dr. McGill, on the podcast recently. Of course, I will have a link to that down below. But the McGill Big 3 is absolutely phenomenal for proximal stability, which means proximal closer to your center, so you can have distal mobility, distal meaning further away. So let me just do a brief demonstration. I know some of you who are just really, really experts in this might critique me that I have some form a little bit off, but I learned this from Brian. I just want to pass it along to some of you out there who are looking for some relief to get yourself maybe out of some discomfort or to make sure that you don't get injured and you have a strong enough core and stability. So the first one is the horse stance. And I'm going to get down here on my GoTo mat. And the horse stance is you're going to have your knees directly under your hips and your arms are going to be directly under your shoulders. So you're in a 4-point stance as such. And what you're going to do is you're going to, as Brian calls, you're going to tune the stiffness of your core. So if you put your fingers slightly under your rib cage and just push in slightly, and you want to push your fingers out just by engaging the muscles in your core, that's tuning the stiffness. So you want to just get those engaged. So you have a neutral spine, and then what you're going to do is you're going to lift one arm and the opposite foot. So I'm going to lift my right arm off the ground, and I'm going to extend my left leg, and I'm going to push my heel away as I'm pushing up away from the earth. So my right arm, and I'm going to make a fist. I'm going to extend here. My heel is going to extend this way. Now a couple key things is you want your spine to be neutral, so crown of the head away from the tailbone. You do not need to keep your arm or your leg parallel to the ground. That's going to put you in too much extension, and that's not going to do the work that you want. So arm straight from the shoulder socket, leg out just a few inches off the ground, and you're going to extend those, and you're going to hold that for a count of 10. Okay? Then when you get to 10, you're going to do a very slight curling or bringing in the knee close to the chest as well as the elbow for a second or so, and then you're going to extend out again, and you're going to hold for another 10 seconds. You're going to do that 5 times, and that will really help start to stabilize the core. Once you do that 5 times, you can take a minute or so break if you need it, and then what you're going to do is you're going to switch sides. So your left arm is going to extend, and your right leg is going to lift off the ground. You're going to push your heel away, and you're going to hold that for 10 seconds. And the same thing, you're going to bring elbow closer to the rib cage and knee closer to the chest for a second or 2, and then go ahead and extend again. Always pushing away. You're not letting yourself collapse into the ground. Okay, so that is first of the McGill Big 3. That's a horse stance. Second one is a side plank. A lot of people might get this wrong because they get a little too lazy. By lazy, I mean they let their side drop. You want to maintain that neutral spine. So you'll lay on your one side. You'll be pushing your elbow into the ground with your tricep, top leg in front of the lower leg. You're going to tune the stiffness, engage the core a little bit, and you're going to push your elbow and hand into the ground as you lift your hips off the ground so that you have a neutral spine. You can do 2 things with your other arm. You can reach it straight up in the air and make a fist, or you can touch it on your shoulder. You'll do this for a count of 10. You'll keep the stiffness as you come down, and as you get to the ground, then you can go ahead and relax. You'll do that 5 sets for 10-second holds, and then you'll switch. And then the last one is the roll-up. Now this is a little bit different than a sit-up. Sit-up, obviously, you all come all the way up. For a lot of people, that puts a lot of undue stress on the vertebrae and the soft tissues of the spine. So what you do on a roll-up, one leg is up, you're reaching the crown of your head away, you're pushing your foot slightly away, your hands, palms down, are going to go under your low back, and you're going to push your elbows up into the air. So you're supporting your low back. You're going to lift your head just an inch or 2 off the ground as you lift your heel off the ground, and you're going to hold for a count of 10. And once you get to 10, you can lower everything for about 5 seconds, and then you're going to do your second one, and you'll go through the same as the others. Sets of 5 for 10-second hold, switch sides. That is the McGill Big 3. Okay, so the first 2 disciplines I just talked about, foundation training, the 12-minute video, I do that for my the first thing I do when I get to a gym. It gets the blood flowing, gets the fluid going in my joints, etc. Then I work into the Big 3, the McGill Big 3, that gets my core tuned, stiff, and ready for the workout I'm about to do. Then I go ahead and do my workout, lifting weights, training, whatever you're going to do. But usually when you do those things, you're going to have some compression in your body and your joints. So one of the most beneficial things that I've ever found for this is the ELDOA method and the program, where it is a joint decoaptation, which basically is a big word for you're going to de-stress your joints or give it some more space in between. You're going to stretch them out. And this was developed by Dr. Givoye. I was very fortunate to take one of his classes a number of years ago through a good friend, Dan Hellman. Dan has been a multiple guest on the podcast. He's a phenomenal trainer and therapist down in Fort Lauderdale. If you're in that area and you have some physical issues, I highly recommend you looking him up. Obviously, I'll have a link to his shows and website down in the summary below. But what I want to focus on for this video is the ELDOA L5S1. So your lumbar, your fifth lumbar vertebrae and your sacrum number 1. This really gets a beating for many golfers out there, and I want to make sure that you have something that you can utilize to get that decompressed. You can use this after your gym session. I use it after I lift my weights again to decompress all the joints that I just compress, and I also use it after every round of golf. So here's how you do it. You want to get up against the wall and slide your rear end up as close to it as you can, and then you're going to lay back on your back as your legs go straight up the wall. Your rear end is all the way up, butting up against the wall. Next, what you're going to do is you're going to lock out your legs or make them as straight as you can, and you're going to pull your toes towards the ground, back towards you. Third, you're going to internally rotate your legs so your toes are pointed to each other, as we've talked about in other disciplines where the outsides of the feet are parallel. You're going to roll, put your head down, and you're going to roll, extend the crown of your head, but roll your eyes down your legs as far as you can to your knees or below. Then you're going to extend your arms up towards the sky, fingers away from you, and palms pointed up. Now what you want to do is push your legs up the wall, and at the same time, you're going to push the crown of your head away as well as lower your arms and push them away. So your heels are pushing up, and your palms and the top of your head are pushing away. And as you do so, your tailbone will lift slightly off the ground, and it will allow that to decompress. And you hold that for a minute, okay? So I'm not going to hold it for the full time in this video because it gets a little hard to talk at the same time. Now, for many of you, that might feel very, very good to decompress that lumbar spine, that low lumbar spine, and that sacrum. I would not recommend doing it for longer than a minute, at least as you get started. You do not want to destabilize anything in your lower back. So that is ELDOA L5S1. Now, the last, but certainly not least, of the methods and disciplines I want to bring to your attention today is the GoTo Method. Now, this isn't, you can get a customized GoTo program. You can go to their website. I'll, of course, have a link to that down below. But I have had 3 GoTo practitioners on, the founder, Gil Boesch, the current head of the GoTo program, Ricky Stanzi, as well as one of their very, very expert trainers, Hunter Gathright. All phenomenal shows. It's a great system. Sometimes it gets a little knocked by the traditional methods of training or therapy, but it has done wonders. And it just takes some subtle things. Now, I'm not going to get into all the details of GoTo, but one of their main key factors, as we have seen in the other disciplines that we talked about today, is the outsides of the feet are always parallel. So when you're walking, when you're running, you want the outsides of your feet parallel, and when you go to walk, you'll notice that the heel moves to the outside. Okay? So again, when that happens, your femur bones or your thigh bones will be internally rotated, and it will allow the pelvis to settle in with a slight forward tilt, and then you can stand erect from there, where what they call back chain dominance. So your big muscles of your glutes, your hamstrings are holding your posture. Again, if you evert your feet or they go outwards where you're web-footed like this, the tendency is the femurs will externally rotate, the pelvis will roll in, and you'll get that old man posture where your belly's sticking forward and the head's leaned back. So let me show you a couple things, in particular as somebody walks, the differences between a GoTo person and what they call a WOTA, and how it can significantly improve the stability of your hips, your pelvis, your lumbar spine, and of course, everything above it. So now, obviously here we're outside. I wanted to illustrate to you the differences in the GoTo program, because it is something that you can utilize on a daily basis as you walk that can actually help improve the stability and the health of your back. We mentioned the outsides of the feet parallel, but one other key feature is you want the joint of your big toes to be approximately 1 fist width apart as such. So your feet are relatively close. So the big toes are closer, the heels are further away. And as I walk, you'll notice that my heels move to the outside, okay? That allows, again, my pelvis to settle down. I'm back chain dominant with a slight lean forward, and I'm not walking in any way, shape, or form that's going to affect my back in a negative manner. It also gives tremendous amount of support from the ankles to the knees to the hips to the low back, all the way through to the neck and all the way up to the head. When somebody walks in what they refer to as WODA, where the heels are closer and the front of the feet are out, as we mentioned, that's the old man posture, that's front chain dominant, and when they walk, they have a tendency to walk like this. And if there's really, the biggest negative on this is your joints, when your feet are flared out like this, the ankles will have a tendency to roll in, the knees will have a tendency to pinch in, and that just starts a negative chain reaction all the way up into the hips, the pelvis, and the low back, as everything starts to become pinched. So that is the GoTo method. You can utilize it, or I recommend you utilize it on a daily basis by walking with the outsides of your feet parallel and the big toes about 1 fist width apart. So those are 4 disciplines that I have found extremely useful in getting myself out of pain, becoming stronger, and back to playing golf on a more regular basis after my career in playing professional golf was railroaded by injuries and back discomfort and all those things that all golfers suffer with. So you might agree with some of these, you might not agree with some of them, but again, they have helped myself as well as many others to get back to playing golf on a regular basis. If you have disciplines or modalities that you like, we would love to hear about them as well. Please don't forget to post them in the comments below. And if you have used some of these modalities or work with some of the people that we have mentioned, Dr. Eric Goodman, Jesse Solis, Brian Carroll, Dr. Stu McGill, Dan Hellman, and Ricky Stanzi or Hunter Gathright, we would love to hear your positive comments about all their systems as well. Post them in the comments below. Hey everybody, thank you for watching another one of our videos. If you found this useful and used it in your game, don't forget to click that like button and let us know down in the comments below. Also, don't forget to check out our podcast, one of the hottest podcasts in golf, Golf 360. If you'd like to watch another one of our videos or subscribe to our channel, you can do so right over here.